Whatever your opinion of Emily Gilmore,
Your mother is a snob.
she definitely had a definitive sense of style for her space. I even read that they didn't move the cameras around as quickly in their Hartford mansion to emphasize how unchanging and static everything was. Well, except for that one episode where they actually have a real direct fight and the camera is flying all over the place.
I didn't see you throw yourself at the decorators while they were putting up your very expensive wallpaper.
Which, of course, for Emily, the fight is about wallpaper because she loves showing her sense of style and her attention to detail through her design decisions.
Oh, now that is gorgeous. Look at the woodwork.
So today I'm going to show you how you could recreate the aesthetic in your own space. We're going to break down the design decisions she makes, and then I'm also going to show you how you could do a bit comfier version.
Well, why just talk about it? Why not share it?
Hi, my name is Anne. I am an interior architect and designer, and I grew up in Connecticut, in a town not unlike Stars Hollow, and my grandparents actually owned a home in West Hartford, so a lot of this hits close to home. Okay, so let me show you how you could style a space like Emily Gilmore. We're starting with a blank canvas in this room, although of course it does have some of those nice design details like a fireplace and those big windows and paneling on the walls, which is what they had. So the first thing would be to paint the walls. And I definitely wanted to choose a historical color because I feel like that's something Emily would do. So this is Benjamin Moore Monroe Bisque. It's kind of like a tan. You don't see it as frequently nowadays. It's definitely a bit more traditional, historical. It has a bit of a warm feel to it. And then what I do like that she does is she has very large area rugs, even in places where there isn't furniture, like at the bottom of the stairs. And I think what she does nicely compared to what you see nowadays is they're so big that all the legs of the furniture actually fit on top of it, which is a bit cozier feeling. And so this is of course from Revival because I wanted to show that I would do something like vintage, traditional. This is a Persian style. I think the symmetry with the medallion is similar to what she had. And there's a lot of colors in it too, but like a soothing palette. Okay, so then we get into the furniture. For a lot of the furniture, I am showing like antique options. This one happens not to be, but what it captures similar to what they had is that it's a square back. It has exposed arms, and the patterning is that white, is it silk? I'm not sure, but it's kind of like that white on white, like medallion floral patterning, very similar to what they had. And then after that, she has 4 side tables, all different, all wood, all like recognizable antique styles. This is a pie crust table. I think a lot of times nowadays we just refer to it as scalloped because that's been kind of popular with a pedestal base. It's pretty. I think it's pretty timeless. And then they did have an octagon shaped side table with some drawers to it. So that's an antique piece as well. Okay, so then getting into the settees, I chose 2 antique pieces from Cherish. So they're not exactly what she had. Obviously, this isn't quite as pink, but I think it captures the details and shapes in that there is a subtle patterning to it with the stripes. It has the gilded frame. It even has some gilded detailing in the middle. In the show, hers had like an extra oval in the middle of the gilded framing and those curved legs. And then for the other side, I struggled a bit with this one, but I settled here. Even though the legs aren't exactly what they had, theirs was more simple with the legs, more like straight up and down. But the only one I found in that, it was almost like a terry cloth fabric, which I thought Emily would like die rather than ever do a terry cloth feeling fabric. So I thought this patterning, again, kind of like the armchairs, was more appropriate.
It's fine. It's better.
And then a coffee table in the middle. It was pretty simple, just kind of a Queen Anne style with the cabriole legs. Another side table. This is probably, they called them like flatware servers or chests. So this is, I think it's actually from Wayfair. I think it's new, but it captures those tall, skinny legs and the drawers. So I thought that was a good one to put here. Okay, so then I left the other side clear because there's something else that we need to add later. Here on either side of the fireplace, these bow chests with the curves to them. I think they're pretty. I think the hardware itself is really nice. And then she did also have, which I think is an interesting kind of cool choice, if I can say it right, a seminier. It's originally a French piece. I was thinking while doing this, back in design school, we had to do this like history of furniture class where you literally had to take like drawing notes and hand in your notebook at the end of the term. So I feel like I was trying to revisit like, what's that furniture style? I probably didn't get everything exactly right here, but if you're interested. A Semenier had 7 drawers because it was for each day of the week. So nowadays it's kind of been translated to a lingerie chest. But I actually like the idea of having some drawers in the living room. Maybe you want a place to like put your mail and stationery and just other paperwork other than your home office or like your kitchen counter. And I think the height is nice because then you don't have quite so much wall space to try to fill with art and other things like that. And then she did have, so what I wanted to contrast, those square tops to the armchairs in front of the fireplace versus on the near side, she did have like the curved, gilded, exposed armchairs in pink fabric, which was pretty. I feel like she's partial to pink in her clothing too, right? So, of course, the Gilmores need a bar cart.
That's a deal breaker.
They had one on wheels. They're always bringing it out, I think, basically every Friday dinner. Starts with, what do you want to drink?
So, what would everyone like to drink?
I thought this one was so pretty. It has that same, I don't know if it's called a gallery when it's just one rail, but you know, that piece of metal to kind of keep things from falling off. I think this is in a burl wood, but I liked the legs and I just thought it was pretty and I liked the curves to it too. Theirs was rectangular, but for something that's rolling around, I think I'd rather have curves on it. Okay, so then let's get into what's on the walls. So on either side of the fireplace, she had oval, because of course curved, framed, probably antique pieces of art, of florals. I thought these were pretty. I kind of liked the moodiness a bit more than what she had. And then she had over that Semenier, a couple framed like porcelain prints. So I found from Etsy, this is just pages from an old like porcelain book, which I think is such a clever idea to like buy a consignment coffee table book and then just tear out pages and frame them. And if there's some wiggle room, you can kind of cut them to fit, pre-made frames rather than custom. These are custom black frames from an Etsy seller because I'm protesting FrameBridge right now, which is a conversation for another time. But I thought these porcelain prints were so pretty and accessible, and then you can just get them custom framed or buy a ready-made frame. And it adds, that bit of history to the space. They had, a custom portrait over the fireplace, which you could do. Or I think a mirror can always feel pretty nice over a fireplace. This is a pretty sizable one with a gilded frame. So here, I toned it down a little bit. They had those sconces that had 3 lamps to them and like really excessive filigree details. I went for these 2 lamp sconces, and instead of kind of doing that funny symmetry, like one side of the art on the other wall, I just did above the art here because there was room on the wall in this space. And I did it above like the porcelain prints as well. So these also do have the like pleating to the shades that she had in a lot of her pieces. And then getting into the table lamps, she had a jade ginger jar table lamp similar to this one with a belled lampshade in a square shape. And then on the near side table, it's like a white ceramic urn looking lamp with a circular bell shade. So again, all those curves coming in. Both of these I did do a different lampshade than what comes with the fixture. And then she had 2 of those like dangly crystal table lamps, which I couldn't quite do. And honestly, kind of hard to find. I think that would be like an antique thing to find. So I liked that this was bringing the crystal in, but a bit more streamlined, still with curves. I think it's pretty and has a nice height to it. And then the fireplace, they had a curved brass screen. I feel like the fire's always going, right? And that's one other thing. We're normally seeing this space at nighttime, so it is kind of funny to see it like in the light of day. It feels more like exposed or something, but I think the fireplace, having the fire in the rendering, helps capture that feel. This is from, I will link it. I think it's an Etsy seller. I thought it was pretty. I liked that little like severe detail to the top. I feel like that fits into this scheme. And then she did have, a couple like larger porcelain pieces on the floor, like that blue and white one you can see in that room. What do you call the room with the stairs in it? I don't know what you call that room. But there's one big one there. And then these are called fishbowl planters. They literally originally were to bring fish inside in the winter so they wouldn't get cold. And then they started doing like fish patternings on them and stuff. Pretty. There's a ton of options for them from Cherish. And then pillows, she kind of curated it where it was like one color scheme on one settee and one color scheme on another. So on the pink settee, the color scheme was much more like creamy with some pink. And then on the ivory settee, there was some greens brought in, which I thought was nice. Some of these are like needlepoint, some like luxe textures to them. And then we get into accessories. And this is where it is insane, but I just couldn't help linking it. These like handled urns on the fireplace, similar to what she has. The antique ones are insanely expensive. Not my personal taste, but I just wanted to show them to capture Emily's style and, you know, what she valued. She valued those pieces that were recognizable antiques. And then she had these very tall candelabras, I think with 5 candles on both of those bow chests. She had, you know, she was kind of rotating smaller picture frames on the fireplace, which was, I guess, like the most personal detail in this space. And then she always had like pink and white flowers out too. And then I hesitated. I like waited till the last second to include the curtains because I didn't want to turn people off. But these were the ones that I found that were most similar to what she had in the colorway and the patterning, but also like with the scalloped valance and then the tie backs. Like you can separately buy whatever curtains you have. You can buy these like inexpensive tasseled tie backs and kind of just like make a vibe with that. So I hesitated to include the curtains, but once everything else was in, I actually thought it warmed up the space a bit. So maybe not my first choice to do kind of like damask, burgundy, ivory, heavy traditional feeling curtains, but it actually kind of works once you see it all together. So Emily knows something.
Well, it's never too late to learn a lesson.
And then in this room, they never showed the ceiling, probably because of like studio set stuff. But in the entry and the dining room, they had one of those like very elaborate crystal chandeliers. So I wanted to put one in here, but I did choose one that had some brass to it. So it feels a bit warmer and it's tying into like the other brass fixtures in the space. And there you have the final design I created, inspired by Emily's style, but making, you know, some minor tweaks. So of course this is a sitting room, but the ironic thing is Emily definitely doesn't prioritize comfortability as much as she does the history and style of a furniture piece.
How nice to have yet another chair you can't sit in.
It's 100 years old.
Wonderful. We can put it next to the 200-year-old footstool you can't put your foot on.
Oh, Richard, please.
So I did want to show you how you can make a few tweaks if you like this look, but you want to feel more comfortable at home. These are, of course, not Emily sanctioned.
That's not what I want.
Okay, so starting with the room we designed, the first thing I wanted to experiment with was the color. So at first I was like, let's just go bold and see how it feels. So I tried this deep, slightly green blue, and I actually think this is really beautiful and could just be one tweak you could do to change the feel of the space. But ultimately, I thought it was veering a bit far from Emily's style. So instead, I opted for this classic, like from the Classic Colors collection, Gray Mist from Benjamin Moore, which is a little bit more fresh feeling. It's a little bit more welcoming than maybe that kind of, I don't know, like rigid tan color that could turn some people off. And then I wanted to change out those chairs because it's such a focal point, and I think the ones that were there were so like small feeling. These are actually similar overall dimensions, but much more cushy. And the idea of bringing like that rich patterning instead of that like you barely notice it patterning feels more inviting to me. I thought these were just like really pretty. I think it's recycled fabric that this company uses too, which is cool. So then I wanted to get into the settees. So of course, it's nice to have furniture that's pretty to look at.
No, I'm never happier than when we're standing in the corner staring at our furniture.
Eat your pork, please.
But presumably you want to sit in the pieces you have. So I know these are straying a bit and that they're much more contemporary, but they do still have that curve. There's some channel tufting and pin tufting and just overall feel more comfortable and still elegant. Like I don't think we're getting too fussy with it. So one is like a slightly pinkish cream and the other's an ivory. And I think it helps a lot in making it feel like you could actually relax in this space. The other thing I did, there's certainly enough tables already. There's literally one on every side of the sofas and chairs. So I thought, why not do a cocktail ottoman instead to get like a cushier feel? So this is inspired by an armchair in Richard's office, which is that like tufted brown leather, and it has a platform base. It just feels a bit more like grounded. Instead of having like so many legs. And I know I'm saying contradictory things, like it needs to be more fresh, it needs to be more grounded, and that may not totally seem to make sense.
You're being a little hypocritical, don't you think?
No, I don't.
But for some reason, to me, it does. Kind of picking and choosing where to lighten things up and where to like root things down a bit more. So I think bringing in that cushy texture helps. And then you can use a tray on top. I think the other thing to do is to switch out some of those antique pieces for a bit more streamlined, just to make it like more visually accessible. So that instead of the Seminier, doing like a tall skinny cabinet, maybe with a door, which is nice. But again, it's already starting to feel a little bit more relaxed. Same thing with what was like a flatware table in the front. This is such a similar style. Honestly, it has the tall skinny legs. It does have a cabinet too, which is nice, but just it's simpler. And I think that can help you feel a bit more comfortable, unless your preference is truly like the more details, the better. And then the other thing to change out that I was experimenting with is the curtains. So I think instead of like a heavy feeling damask pattern, this is just like a striping. It's pretty colors from an Etsy seller. But the other thing too is the arrangement of it. Instead of like the scalloped valance and the dramatic tying on the sides, you can do like the individual panels and you can like move them around. It just feels a bit looser. Or the chandelier, if crystal's not your thing, this reminded me of some table lamps that she has in this space, so I think it makes sense. But again, it's kind of like streamlining the details a bit to make it feel more relaxed. So it's just like the one big shade. The other kind of big change is I took out those double sconces. There's a lot of them. The arrangements were kind of formal feeling, so instead I did literally the same fixture but the single sconce, and I did on either side of the mirror, and then kind of let the art like breathe a bit. Takes down the formality. And then just changing out some accessories. Obviously those antique urns were insanely expensive. This is a very cool company or platform called Clay Makers, something like that. I'll link it. Totally one of a kind pieces from artists throughout the country. So the idea too of breaking up the symmetry a bit, like having pieces that kind of speak to each other but are different shapes and colors. I thought that was pretty. Also, those really big candelabras, like the verticality was so severe. So instead I found these ones that are more laterally oriented. And I think it just like puts things more at a comfortable level, not like you're being like, I don't know, looked down upon by the things that you own. I started to add, literally there were no blankets available in this room. So I think throw blankets certainly make a place feel a bit more cozy. And then I changed out some of the pillow patternings too. Some of them felt a bit like, I don't know, old feeling. So I thought this colorway, like with the flowers, was really pretty. And then bringing a bit of blue into the pillows as well. So it just feels still very like intelligent in terms of like bringing and mixing some different historic design details together, but it's a bit more accessible. You can put your feet up on, you know, a leather cocktail ottoman, not some 200-year-old footstool. You can kick your shoes off. You can use a throw blanket. You can actually move the curtains around depending on how the light is. And I think it just overall feels quite nice, really beautiful, elegant, and sophisticated, but you can actually relax in here. And so here's a comparison showing how we recreated Emily Gilmore's style. It's layered, it's historic, it's chic, but then how we considered making a few tweaks to make it feel a bit more comfortable for you. So this was fun to revisit Gilmore Girls set in my hometown state. I hope you enjoyed it, and please consider subscribing if you want to see me dive into recreating designs from those TV shows and movies that speak to you. I will see you next time. Bye.